Hello YouTube and welcome to, sad face, the last Masters video of this year. I'm here, I'm Lucky Sixes, with my fellow Masters co-host Matty P.
Hey Lucky Sixes, how you doing, buddy? Good to catch up with you again.
I know.
Have you recovered? Have you recovered?
Well, this is it, isn't it? I like this show because we've finished all the stress. I'm here with a beer. I can just chill out with my mates and talk crap for an hour.
Talk some nine things.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Sure. That's what I mean. But yeah, no. Thanks for joining us, everybody. The Masters Review Show is here. We've obviously done quite a lot over the last, as you're referring to. So we did the live stream last weekend, and if we just go over to the schedule, ourselves, yourself, Matty P, and all the other podcasts and YouTubers did so much over the last, I guess, 3 weeks now. It's all a bit of a blur, but it was an amazing amount of content. Go and check them out. Thank you to all the people that got involved. There's loads of stuff Masters-wise to get rid of, and it's really interesting listening back to some of the stuff before the tournament, now that it's after as well. So that's sort of people's different opinions and what they thought was going to be really good or whatever. So do go check that out. But thank you, Matty P, and all the other podcasters that got involved in all of the pre-match build-up, should we say?
Oh, it was absolutely epic, wasn't it, mate? I think at one point there was like about 45 podcasts coming out in a week.
It was. And I mean, as well as on there with the pre-build-up content and the people that came on the live streams, the guests, thank you very much to all the people.
Yes.
I think we had about 10 to 15 content producers, which is awesome to know that just in the UK alone there's 10 to 15, and there's about 3 or 4 more that I'm hitting up for next year already. So there's loads of people to get involved with. So much content out there. Go and check them all out, guys. I'll put links in the description, so that you can do that quite easily. But they're all awesome, including yourself, Matty P.
Well, we do our best, Lucky Sixes. But it was just so great, wasn't it? That on the Saturday we were just getting deluged by people who wanted to come on and commentate, and some of the finest minds in the Ninth Ageosphere, and Tommy.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And as I say, we had so many people join us chatting wise. I mean, they had the guests obviously, but in the chat, which it helped us out for a 17-hour shift over the weekend anyway.
It did.
So thank you so much for that. But let's stop thanking people and get on with the show, shall we? Here we are. Although I say that, I'm going to thank the guests that join us. Mr. Hyper G, you are here. Hello.
Hello, I'm here. Yes, a delight to be on. I was cut from last year's, mainly because I wasn't available on the night you did it, but that wasn't my fault, of course. And I'm here this year, and I'm very glad to be here. So yeah, awesome.
Of course, our man on the ground, filling us in with all the information, getting up close and personal to the players. Sometimes when they didn't want it as well.
True.
Now, is there any truth to the rumour that your pedometer stopped working about 4 o'clock on day 2?
It did. It didn't think it was me. It was sure that I'd given my phone on pedometer off to somebody else. It thought there's no way that this could be Hyper G. So yeah, it must just stop working.
No, absolutely. But you were much needed and helped out the thing very much. And one of those players that didn't really want you around, but you were there.
Who was very good, actually. No, I mean we'll expand on that. I'm sure later on. But go on,
Mr. Matty P. Do you want to introduce our next guest?
Well, crikey, what can be said about this player that hasn't already been said? Frankly, if it's got Ninth Age in it, then you'll probably find this player's already thumbs deep in it. The captain of the Scotland ETC team. He's on the executive board of the Ninth Age. He's part of the ETC committee. He's on the Masters committee. And he's now the master of the UK and the Republic of Ireland, Scottish Knights. Ed Murdoch, we are not worthy. Welcome and congratulations, buddy.
Hey, guys.
Are you getting used to your list of achievements yet?
No, definitely not.
So what's it been? It's been a week of you being the master. How has that week been?
So far, it's been much like every other week. I've yet to see the forums declare me as the king of Ninth Age and replace everyone else. So maybe that will come in time.
I'm sure that's a week 3 or 4 thing, right?
Yeah.
Was there a welcoming committee when you got back to Glasgow? They lined the streets, shower you in Buckfast, that sort of stuff.
I'm afraid the Glasgow populace was unmoved by my victory.
Well, as I said, that's definitely still to come. We do have a picture of you receiving the trophy as well. Here we are. It's not at all. We were obviously on it straight away from the start. Jordan, I don't know why he was posing that. He clearly knew the camera was on him. But yeah, thanks very much.
It's a smouldering look.
And that was you accepting the trophy to be master of the UK scene.
That's a good card you got there, Ed.
Yeah, I didn't even know I owned it. I'll need to look that one out.
Yeah, absolutely. Very good. But yes, so here we are. You've obviously won the Masters. Thank you very much for giving us your time and to talk about it and stuff. And you won it with Demon Legions. Yep,
that was my project since the end of last year, was to build up a Demon's army, and so far it's going really well.
Yeah.
Who would have thought?
It's a good start, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it was worth saying it's a bit of an off-the-wall theme for Demons, and definitely had a theme as well to it.
Yeah, to be honest, the theme sort of came about as a result of I tested a few different versions, and I looked at trying to build in as much speed as possible. And then from there, I ended up looking at, well, I want to have a courtesan, I want to have a scourge, but I'm having problems with getting them in the right position. And then Dark Hide offered up some options. And once I saw that, I thought, well, why don't I just play into this Dark Hide thing a lot more? And so, yeah, I ended up with half my army scouting, and it worked reasonably well.
Yeah, absolutely. Am I right in thinking there was 5 units on that you actually put down?
Yeah, 5 on the table, 5 in scout. So it's not. It's something that's been done before. I'm certainly not the first person to try it, but I think in the end it just sort of fit with what I was trying to do with the list. So it worked out. We'll see if it continues to work in future.
And I mean, you've been very modest there, but you are the first person to try that and win the Masters. So that's for sure. That's
okay.
Undoubtable fact. So well done.
And do you think it's likely that this is now going to spawn a whole slew of copycat lists? And are we going to see a bunch of Dark Hide lists at Bristol?
I haven't seen a lot of people commenting that this is a broken ability that has to be immediately removed from the Demons book, so I clearly haven't exploited it that much. But give it some time, and maybe people will decide this is a good idea.
No, fair enough. And speaking of your list, if you've kept up with the coverage so far, and on the weekend we had a plethora of lineups given throughout the weekend, and we may as well end the Masters coverage with showing the winners lineup. How about that?
And refresh our memories of what was in that supreme list.
Absolutely. Enjoy.
When Ed Murdoch stands across the table, you can feel the prestige just dripping off of him as our FIFA representative. Will his team be shown the respect that their manager deserves? Let's take a look to find out. As far as normal formations go, playing a 4-3-2 setup is risky, but it won't be the only team that shuns the normal pitch spread in this tournament. The talking point has to be around the inclusion of the Dark Hide managerial attire that Ed will be rocking on the sidelines. Such class on display, but what about his players? Honestly, we just love this model. Warhol takes the spotlight here. I have nothing more to say about this goalkeeping legend. Hellhounds in either fullback position are some of the few units that Ed actually has to deploy without some sort of shenanigans. They've had to adapt as their career has gone on. Once they were vicious strikers, but as the years went on they've slowly made their way back, still respected on either side of the fence. There are ways to counter the Dark Hide, of course, as our podcast friends have made quite clear. But when the team gets ready to kick off and neither of their centre-backs has even made it past the subs bench, you have to wonder if Ed has thought this one through. Another unit that can really move, even though it will be one of the first out, is these Veil Serpents. Once again, we should say that we have no idea how this unit will be used at the tournament. We could guess, but we'd probably be wrong. If Dark Hide scouting is not your cup of whiskey, then normal scouting is in there too. Ed knows how to play to the crowd like the best of them. That winning smile is a wily one. Expect a decent amount of assists to come from this direction. At the centre and out from the start, Myrmidons won't be messing around like some of the rest of the army. According to their teammates, they'd never heard of social media, but that might just be because no one told the demons that no one uses MSN anymore. We struggle to say much about this team captain without mentioning their enormous pair of 7s in their offensive and defensive stat line. It won't be their only tricks though, as she too sports that dark hide, not that you'd know it, as well as a whole load of other fanciful effects that Ronaldo would be proud of. And we leave the last laugh for the player that could not have made more disruption if he tried. Singled out as the most negative influence on the locker room, many wonder if he would cause the team more trouble than harm if it weren't for the calm head that is Mr. 9th Age Ed. If ever there was a player who we instantly forgive for taking the top-tiered army to the biggest tournament of the year, it's Ed Murdoch. No one would dare to say he couldn't be the one raising the trophy by the end, and with the demons, there's always a chance.
There we go. Ed's winning team. Obviously, maybe some of those things came true, Hyper G, that you predicted.
Well, have to get that commentator on next year as well. He sounded quite enthusiastic, quite charismatic.
He was. He certainly knew his stuff, didn't he?
Well, absolutely. I think definitely when it comes to the courtisan as well.
Yeah. Issue is his fee might go up, and we can't afford that. So
almost guaranteed. Almost guaranteed. Yeah.
Absolutely. But yeah. So well done with that list. We'll go quickly over to the final standings to confirm your massacre on the UK scene. Mr. Ed Murdoch right at the top. How's that fit? Are you framed this yet? Is this framed in your?
It's no, it's pretty well stuck in my head. I think, to be honest, this this does. It's an interesting table because if you look at the bottom scoring person at 31 points, to the top at 70, I actually think 39 points is quite a narrow spread for a tournament. I suspect if you were to look at most tournaments, even at 16 people, you'd struggle to find one that had that smaller spread across.
Sure.
People usually would run up 80, 85 points over the course of a weekend. So I think it goes to say just how competitive it was, how much people cared about each game, and how much everyone put effort in to try and maximize what they were getting out of every game.
Yeah, man, for sure. And everyone won a game, right? So no one. There was someone had to finish bottom, but there was no whipping boy, so to speak.
Can I just say about Kev there, my mate Kev, that if we were doing it on VPs, he'd come 7th.
Yeah, right.
There you go.
And interestingly, if we're doing it on VPs, Mikey finishes last. I'm pretty sure that happens every tournament as well. How does he do it?
I mean, if you win secondary, yeah, if you can win every secondary, then
doesn't matter, right?
Yeah, you're already onto a good start.
Yeah. Is that something we spoke to a few players over the weekend to get their voice and opinion on that? Is secondary victory points anything you worry about in the list or during the matches?
I think you have to. I personally love the secondaries. I think their existence essentially. I like the fact that you have this split focus. While you can't just focus primarily on massacring your opponent, you've got to have at least an eye to strategic movements and strategic positioning. So I think you always have in mind when you're building your list what kind of scoring units you have, what abilities you're bringing with your scoring units. and then over the course of the game, you're always trying to position yourself in such a way that if you're not winning the secondary, you're at least using the secondary as a way to generate good position or to exploit some element of the game.
Sure.
It's pretty rare that it doesn't factor into how you play the game.
Yeah. And what about past the secondary, actually getting points on the board? Obviously, showing on this, it doesn't really matter too much. But have you got an eye on that when you're generating the list building? Do you think I need something that's going to get as many points as possible?
Yeah, I've certainly built my list with that in mind. I think everyone does it differently, and there's some lists where they plan around, synergies and units working together. Some people will plan for elements of the list that are going to go out on their own and just cause all sorts of havoc. For me, with demons, it was particularly exploiting the long charge ranges and the sort of movement abilities that army has.
Sure.
So you give your opponent a lot of bad choices. And the more bad choices you can give your opponent, the more likely you are to find a weakness or for them to make a mistake that you can take advantage of.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm looking for when I'm building a Demon's Army at the moment.
Oh, fantastic. And looking at... Go on. Sorry.
I was going to say, it's funny you mentioned that, because I think in the fifth game, was it Amit who said that if you give your opponent two bad choices, where that's the key to winning games. I'm pretty sure that was Amit who came on and said that in the fifth game, and that was it's funny you've said that completely separately. So
well, it's something that Dante has said before as well in some of the interviews that he's given, and it's essentially the fork from chess. You position yourself that you can take two pieces, and your opponent has to make a decision as to which one they give you, but neither of them is a good outcome for your opponent. So,
And looking at your sort of win path as well, so you look at the table, that's another thing it shows. Obviously, a massive day one, ending with a big victory. I think the biggest of the weekend against Craig.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's the only 20 of the weekend, which again goes to show that everyone was scrapping for every point,
sure.
and Craig certainly did even in that game, and had a huge amount of bad luck that game. But come the end of day one with 3 wins and a big point advantage, it was a novel place for me to be in for a tournament.
Did you ever feel complacent at all, or worry about complacency, about being so far ahead at the end of day one?
I worried about it. Yeah, definitely. When I was planning the KOE game, I was sort of looking at the list, going, I think I can play this well. I think I can play this with an eye to winning this game, and aware that then means that you go from 14 points ahead to potentially being almost uncatchable, which is a potential. It's a lot to try and keep in your head. So I did try and put that to one side and just focus on getting into my game plan and playing out that game. But it's something that definitely threatens to cause problems if you don't keep an eye on it.
Yeah, sure. And we obviously live streamed both the games on the Sunday, which was really interesting to watch and so to finally see your list actually as well, because we didn't see it in day one. So seeing what's been tearing up everything, which was really interesting. Am I right in thinking you didn't know you'd won?
I nearly ruined it.
I didn't know for sure. I knew what points I was on. I didn't know what points other people were on.
Sure.
So yeah, I sort of left. I generally prefer to not look at the full score sheets and things as and when the games are completed. I'd rather just wait and see what happens at the awards ceremony. It's not really possible because everyone knows, but
sure.
I was trying not to make too much of it until I actually knew.
Did you find that your brain had turned to mush after dice down in the last game, and so you probably you couldn't have calculated it even if you'd have wanted?
It was I just I think you mentioned it was seen on the stream. I was just going through the motions of packing my army away, and just the standard things that you do at the end of every game and every tournament. So yeah, keep my hands busy.
Yeah.
You were very cool when I came over to you, and I had to really withdraw very quickly when I realised that you either were showing that you didn't know or you genuinely didn't know. And I came over, and then I was like, yeah, I'm going to leave you to it. Bye. And I think I came back to the stream at that point and said, I'm not sure he knows. So, yeah.
Yeah, because I would say, go over there, get him on. And you're like, okay. And he went over and came back and was like that. No, it doesn't want to come on.
Hyper-G literally on the stream came back and said, well, I'm not sure whether I've pissed him off or anything, but he said, I don't want to come on until the thing's done, which might actually mean I've given the impression he's lost. So, and we were second guessing what sort of impression Hyper-G gave to you, which is interesting. On that, I suppose not on that front directly, but having a man on the ground and the coverage and everything, did you find that interfered at all with your play, or did you have any sort of thought about that?
Say what you want. I won't take offense because we need to learn from it as live streaming. So honestly, say what you want.
No, I don't think it. I don't think it took away from the gaming. It didn't really make any material difference. I think, laying out the spell cards at the start and having that in mind is something that, players who are being recorded could be reminded of, and I think that would have probably helped you guys. But no, it didn't have any impact for me, and it wouldn't have bothered me if there'd been quiet moments or something. It wouldn't have bothered me to have more interaction. If your opponent is gone for a drink or something, or you're kind of between moments, that wouldn't bother me. So yeah, no problems for me at all.
Cool. And were you aware of the coverage sort of building up to it and for the day?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, people were obviously sharing bits of coverage. Players were talking about it and participating in it. So the coverage and the build-up I thought was excellent. I didn't have any time to watch any of the streams during, I didn't follow any of it during the event, but I have gone back and watched them afterwards, the second two games, just because it's really.
You've heard us bitching about you.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really interesting to watch back your games with someone commentating on it. Obviously, there were bits that were obviously missed because you didn't have the audio, so there were various sort of things that were happening where I was thinking, oh, that's not what happened, and I wish I could explain, go back in time and explain why this is happening.
Well, all you need to do is put timestamps in comments on YouTube for everything that we got wrong for the entire 9 hours or whatever it was. So,
just go back and fact check it all.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, no, it was an interesting experience, especially with people like Amit and names. I've forgotten the name of the Henry. Yes, Henry.
Yeah.
So yeah, listening to some of the commentating that they were able to offer was really great. So yeah, and also looking back and seeing mistakes that you made during the course of a game.
Yeah, no, we must say, I know we said it already, we had quite a plethora of guests throughout the whole weekend in terms of different abilities as well, abilities and backgrounds. So we had everyone from Dr. Dante and Amit and Henry, who are, Henry's in the USA Masters. We've got Amit, who's a pretty good player, should we say, and Dante, who obviously is very integrated in the Ninth Age as well. And then on the flip side, we had tournament people that run tournaments, Shane, for example, people that never actually played a 4,500 point game in Rick Newman, Remy, Agonas, who is just focused on the Essence of War team, but everybody that came on from any regard and any background really added something different to it. So thank you to those that came on. I bet that must have been interesting hearing about what Amit thought of your move and things like this.
Yeah, it definitely was, and I've gone back and discussed a few of the decision points with him afterwards.
Oh, fantastic.
Just looking at it. So yeah,
excellent. Oh, great. We should sort of mention some other people within the tournament as well. I mean, Matty P, what do we say about second place?
Well, I mean, my dark horse. I mean, I don't think actually, when I sort of said that, I think people poo-pooed it a bit, but, big sticks win big, and he had that chance right at the end, didn't he? He had the chance right at the end. And I think perhaps if he hadn't have been quite so unlucky with his army swap as well in game 2, I think, we might have had, CDS right up there as the master, but it was ever so close. And didn't he do well, though?
Yeah,
I mean, first time in the Masters, new face on the scene, relatively speaking.
Yeah.
And I thought he did fantastic. My boy.
Yeah, absolutely. You've got, obviously, Tanker, England captain up there, and he probably was one of the favourites as well. Craig finishing 4th after day 1, coming on and going, this is rubbish. As well. He was really good sport, actually, Craig. He wanted to come on a few times throughout the weekend.
Yes, he did. He was good.
And
good lad,
was chatting to us lots as well. And so, actually, even Craig, after being quite, I guess, disappointed after his day 1 because he wasn't as high up as he wanted to be, still finishing 4th, which is just insane to me. Mikey, the king of secondaries, I think we're going to have to call him that now. After the VPs and stuff, and then Jeff Hugh.
Now look at that! Look at that dead pile! Look at that dead pile, eh? 16,000. I mean,
chariots, mate. Hey, chariots.
Yeah, chariots. Yeah.
No, yeah, and I say we could basically go down the whole list and sort of congratulate everyone on how well they did throughout the weekend and stuff. Because as you say, every match seemed swingy or something happened in them. I think Ali Parran had a lot of bad luck as well on day 1, so I heard. So yeah, it was really, really interesting to hear from everyone's things. So from your point of view, Ed, did you have a favourite game or most interesting game? It could be 2.
I don't know. I really enjoyed both my games on day 2. They were really both quite strategic, a lot of scrambling to make every point count. Both of them being so close and both and in such a big such a big setup and build up to those games. So, it was really those were really testing and really enjoyable. But yeah, I enjoyed all of my games.
Yeah.
I think probably the hardest game to really get into was the game against Craig, just because it was difficult not to feel like his dice were just stealing the game for me. And yeah, difficult to know, emotionally you don't know whether to enjoy the fact that you're winning or commiserate with your opponent who's having a horrible time.
Sure.
So
yeah. In terms of day 2, I have to ask, because it was something that I was very surprised of the outcome in against Hughes, the Kingdom of Extane. How on earth did those Ordo Sergeants stand up to 2 demons? Talk us through that.
They put everything in place to give them the potential to survive.
Okay.
That's what Hugh did. He put the effort into building the Horizon tokens, and then every turn he was able to put those Horizon tokens into use by giving himself a 4-up save.
Sure.
In a couple of pivotal turns, he passed a lot of 4-up saves, and on the turn where the Scourge flank charged them, he was able to pass enough that he gave himself a discipline test that he could pass on a 4 rerollable, which is 31%. So not that crazy. It's just all of it put together meant that they were living a charmed life.
Sure.
Yeah. No, I mean, nobody knows exactly what the outcome is if that doesn't happen. I know what I was trying to do, but whether it would have worked out that way, who can say? I had my own good luck at other points in that game, so it's not like there's an absence of luck in one direction there. I think that the 10-10 that it ended up is not a hugely unfair reflection of how the game went. But yeah, losing two demons in one unit in essentially one combat with one unit, albeit with some supporting charges and things, was it was tough to take at the time. But
yeah, absolutely. And I mean, that's we said it at the time as well. It was a bit of a credit to Hugh and how high the standard is, that actually the first maybe turn or 2 was going in your favour, and you'd got the thing set up, and he seemed to be overrun, and then he changed his style a bit, and it just turned it round massively. And obviously there was a bit of luck involved, but we were saying that everyone's had a bit of luck, and you've just being able to pounce on that and actually make that work for you and take advantage of that to the maximum. And I think in that game especially was a really good example of you both doing that where you could.
Yeah, definitely. I think we both made a number of different plays that that ended up sort of highlighting. We both knew where the strengths of each other's armies were. We both knew what to respect and what we had to be worried about. And in the end, both of us took points in places that we didn't, probably neither of us expected to, and we both played quite a tactical game. In the end, Hugh took more points than I did. I was able to get the secondary, which favored me. So there was a bit of luck in terms of that matchup coming when in Capture the Flags where I had the advantage there.
Yeah. Do you think you're saying about both players knew? Obviously, that probably happened throughout the thing, but in this specific one, obviously, you guys both played both armies, don't you? You obviously quite earlier on have done a lot of Kingdom of Octane. He's a notorious Demons player, and we were actually surprised he didn't take Demons to Masters somewhat. Do you think that helps you in order to, I guess, assess those strengths and weaknesses?
Yeah, hugely. I mean, KOE is obviously quite a different book now with the new version,
Sure,
and I'm certainly not as up to date on it as I could be, but I did do my research before the tournament, so I had a reasonably good idea. And it still plays in a familiar way. There's still a lot of similarities there, and I think Hugh being familiar with demons obviously gave him a huge head start in terms of just knowing the capabilities. There's a difference between reading the on-paper stats and really having an appreciation for what a particular unit can do. You can read the stat line of a Wretched One unit as many times as you like, but until you've seen it in action causing all manner of havoc, you probably don't really grasp what that thing is able to do. So I think he had that intimate familiarity with the book and was able to use that to inform his decisions in his play.
Sure. Going through the matchups as well, at what point, if any, did you really dream of being the master?
I think at the end of day one, it was, I mean, I knew my pattern for tournaments has always been roughly similar, which is have a good couple of games, potentially end up on a high table after game two, and then usually have a precipitous loss at that point and end up somewhere down the middle of the table and then salvage what I can on day two. So that's a fairly common pattern for me. And when you get drawn against Craig, it's hard not to think that's probably what's going to happen again. So end of day one, sitting on, a pretty significant point total, more than I expected I ever would be. And with quite a big cushion, again, not really expecting that would be the case. So going into day two, knowing that I had 14 points in hand and had quite a lot of leeway to play with, was certainly a comfort going into that second day of games.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I mean, it must have been a worrisome evening that night. Did you get any sleep that Saturday night?
I did my best not to completely overthink the next day's game, but I definitely had statistics going through my head for quite a long time that evening.
You get chased through your dreams by Orison tokens and stuff.
Yeah.
How yeah, just imagine counting Orison tokens instead of sheep, right? How would you describe yourself as a player? Because obviously you say you did a bit of like thought process, and some people going into day two don't look at the lists and just sort of like play it off as instinct. Are you an instinct type player, or are you a stat man that likes to not overthink, but thoroughly think the lists?
I mean, I think I'm a bit of both. I like to know an army before I play it, so I do research before each tournament. I make sure that there's nothing that's going to come as a complete surprise. But I'm also aware that you can overthink a matchup too much, and there are too many moving parts to completely be able to predict how a game is going. I suspect coming into the game against Craig, I was better positioned without having thought that game through overnight. That army in particular, I had no idea how Craig was going to play the matchup. KOE, more familiar, I had more of an idea of how that matchup would go, and it played out in a relatively similar way to what I imagined.
Yeah.
So I think there's a potential to overthink them. There's a potential to get too caught up in your own plan when you need to see what your opponent is doing and react to it. But I think also there's only so far that seat of the pants playing can take you, because eventually you make those decisions that are wrong, as I did against Che in the last game, where you take a charge without properly thinking through all of the consequences of it. And that's, there are too many times that will punish you over the course of a tournament if you're not prepared for it. So I do try and do enough preparation that I don't find myself in that.
Was that
position.
when you chucked the Scourge into the Chosen Knights?
Yeah, the Scourge into the Chosen Knights. I thought he'd come out of it with 2 or 3 wounds left. Mathematically, I think he probably dies maybe half the time. So it was a bit closer than I expected. The problem was that looking back on the game, the play is obvious that I combo charge with the Veil Serpents and I use the Hellhounds to chaff, and that play is just really glaring at me when I look at it back. And obviously that's partly hindsight talking, because I know that if I am going to commit, I should have committed properly to it. But you make the decisions in the heat of the moment sometimes, and you don't always make the perfect decision. So
we weren't certain whether or not he challenged out in the first round. I don't think he did he?
No, he was. I think the challenge would have been the mistake. He was looking to maximize combat output onto the Scourge, which is the right thing to do.
Yeah, I think that would. Yeah, if you'd have clipped in with the Veil Serpents, then it would have. You would have then been able to challenge out, and I think that would have made a bit of a difference. But yeah, I mean, it was. Did you? Because your magic phase is kind of set up for multiple small casts. Was that perhaps why you didn't force through one of the big combat buffs, or was that?
I think it was just a mistake in the end. I played that magic phase like I played most of my magic phases, and I got various benefits from it, but I didn't push through on the 2 or 3 spells that could have made a difference in that combat. And I think, I mean, that was an error looking back on it again.
It's a curse, isn't it, having this live stream? Isn't it? Being able to watch it back. That must be a curse.
It is. I think I've made my peace with it now. And I mean, having a trophy on the shelf is a very good. It's a good salve to the conscience to the ego. But yeah, no, it is there. Every tournament comes with something to learn, and I think if you play a tournament and you've learned nothing from it, then you need to change army or you need to do something different, because if you're not learning, then what are we doing at that point?
No, absolutely. And is this the start of Demon Legions for you for the rest of the year? Are you often hop around, or how are you feeling?
I will probably play them for most of the year. I'm doing a bit of switching up onto Orcs and Goblins at the moment, just to have a break post Masters. But come Bristol, I'll probably be running Demons again.
Sure.
So yeah, I probably take them to ETC will be the plan. So I want to get some practice in, and I want to test out some alternative builds, because there's plenty of room to explore the Demon Legions. I've just noticed that my path nicely spells out win Demon Legions. So
absolutely. Hey, the stars have aligned for you, my friend.
Like, see, we thought that was by design.
Yeah, of course.
And we do appreciate you losing the last one just to make the stream better. That's a nice touch. That's a nice.
Had to keep it interesting.
Yeah, no, that's good. In terms of, obviously, we was mentioning some of the players as well, and you've mentioned that a lot of the players were doing the talking. Do you, in terms of Masters, you think about that differently, and go into it differently to other tournaments? How is the Masters different to other tournaments?
It's very different in terms of the quality. You don't have the sort of usual tournament bouncing that happens, where someone starts off low, ends up being pushed high by by a 20 that comes out of nowhere. And I think, again, as I was saying, the scores were not that high over the course of this tournament. So it was quite different. There wasn't that general rush to get to 59 points by the end of day one, which is not an uncommon occurrence in a big tournament field. And it's only potentially by the end of day one, beginning of day two, that people have sorted out into relative ability levels. So you can have people making a lot of points out of games that they would not. Those games just don't exist in the Masters to the same extent, and this year in particular showcased that, I think. So it doesn't necessarily change your list style or your list building, because you're probably always building with the idea that going into a tournament you're going to have to play against and try and beat some of the best players. But it does mean that you're not necessarily looking for every game to finish in a 20. You're not necessarily thinking that you have to finish at the top of day one just to get there. But equally, if you do have a big loss, it puts a lot of pressure on you, because you're not going to have the ability to climb back up at a high rate the way that you would in other tournaments and submarines. So there's quite a lot of balancing going on in how I think people play in an event like this. But I was really interested to see just how the scores balanced out for everyone over the course of a really competitive weekend.
Yeah, and I mean, as well, I sort of looked at your one, but if you look down the list of the win path, there is a lot of draws, which is another thing that isn't as often at bigger tournaments or different tournaments, is that actually there's a decent amount of draws in this list against these different people in the matchups.
And speaking for myself, at least, the draws weren't necessarily the result of standoffish play where people weren't engaging. Often they were the result of games where people fought really, really hard, just had two lists that took chunks out of each other, and in the end that ended up somewhere in the middle. So I think that was replicated pretty much across the board. And those draws, if you were to expand draw to mean anything from sort of 11 to 11 to 9 or 12 to 8, you'd probably find that there's maybe half of the games were draws, which is again is a mark of competitiveness. I think,
and that's something that Paul Godbold definitely does. If he loses 8, he says he calls it a draw.
Absolutely.
But if he wins 12, it's a win.
Oh
right?
no, yeah.
Naturally.
I think there's actually quite a lot of sense being talked there, because Mikey Newman, for example, tends to on points win quite a lot of games, or sort of draw them, or even maybe sort of lose them 11-9. But because he's picking up the secondaries, and actually at a tournament like this, 13, 14 points replicated across 5 games will win you the tournament. So that's actually, if you look to draw on points and take secondary and do that 5 times, you can be the master.
You definitely could be, and it's I will say as well that it's a really effective ploy for ETC players, for people who play in team tournaments where tournament brackets are capped. The amount of scores you can get out of a team round is capped. So really, for most of those tournaments, what you're looking to do is have everyone achieve roughly a 13. And Mikey's ability to consistently score above 10 is a huge asset to an ETC team in that sense. So he may well play that style because he's played it for years, but it's a huge asset in a team environment. Yeah,
for sure. With your path as well. So we talked a little bit about your win and win Demon Legions. Do you, throughout the weekend, we spoke to a lot of people about saying what factors really are make the master, and sort of we've mentioned a bit of luck. We've mentioned sort of whether you think about it, skill level, and your ability to adapt. How about your path to it? Do you think the matchups were in your favour particularly, or did you feel like you pulled out some big wins against people that you wouldn't normally think you'd win? How did you find the armies you came up against?
I think there's a good mix there. I think, Infernal Dwarves was obviously an army that was quite well favored with Jake's list, a really strong setup. Partly, I will say that in each case I was able to deploy first, and that with my list in particular, where I was set up to be able to do that, that was a huge advantage to me. Excuse me.
Bless you.
But in terms of ID, that was probably a bigger win than I was expecting. I thought I might get lucky. I thought the secondary probably favored me a little bit in being able to push from the off. But the outcome of that game was probably a bit higher than I could reasonably guarantee. Leading into the second game against Tom Clues, I think he probably suffered more from the army swap than in some cases where it was an unfamiliar army. It was an army that had a lot of special rules and a lot of focus put on the magic phase, which wasn't necessarily easy to get to grips with. I think his army was probably an easier one for me to pick up and play than mine was for him. And I'd spent a lot more time looking at what my army does, so the complexity paid off for me because I'd had that prep time. The game against Craig, I think if Craig had been on a different army, it would have been a very different game. I think the fragility of elves makes that a difficult game for him, which he acknowledged from the outset. So he had to play in a particular way that meant he took chances that he wouldn't normally have taken. And once those chances didn't work for him, it gave me the opportunity to take advantage, which was completely compounded by every dice roll that he should have passed failing. And then, going into day two with an advantage based on the win path at that point, with Hugh on KOE, where I was moderately confident that I could either win that game or hold it to a reasonably good finish. That sort of led into one big bust up as the final round game against Jay.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think the path made a big difference. There are people and games that I think would have been much more tricky. Obviously trying to play against Mikey's army. I've played against demons, played against VC with demons before. There's plenty of scope for that to go wrong, and I wouldn't have liked to guarantee any specific outcome out of that. So there are people who could have made my life very difficult that I didn't end up playing, and that's just the luck of the draw and how the event played out.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And as we were sort of discovered throughout the weekend, a lot of people say, well, it's a mix of everything, right? So you've had a bit of a draw, but sometimes you have to take advantage of that draw as well. Skill really, I think we've mentioned it a few times, isn't really too much of a factor because everyone's around the same skill level and you sort of assume that anyway as well. And then you get a bit of luck and you have to take advantage. So I think and overall, congratulations on your win and fully deserved. And I don't think many people would lament you being master for this year either.
So a real achievement, mate. You must be absolutely delighted. So well done.
Absolutely. Well done. Well played.
The big question, and I'm sure the big pressure for you really, is are you going to spell Demon Legions right when it comes to engraving on the trophy?
I mean, there is part of me that feels like just for tradition's sake, I should spell it in some crazy way. But yeah, we'll see what happens.
That's it. We'll leave it to chance. But no, I say thanks for talking us through that, and congrats to all the players, and well done for being master. Enjoy it, for sure.
Just quickly before you move on, Lucky Sixers, I just want to say a massive thank you to all the players, Ed included, who obviously did have to cope with me coming over and asking questions and looking at their games and stuff like that. And they made me feel very welcome on those top tables. And it really made my job as a reporter to the live stream really easy. So massive thank you to all 16 of you guys. It really was appreciated. I really hope I didn't get in your way. Ed says I didn't, so thank you, even if that's a little bit of a lie. No, it made the weekend really enjoyable for me. I didn't feel like I was just a spare part getting in the way. So thank you to all the players from me.
Yeah, man, and especially for everybody that came on as well, which was an absolute bonus to have player interviews. We were so close to the match of the day, I tell you. The resemblances are striking, anyway. So yeah, I say well done for that. It was a really enjoyable tournament from us. Do go back and have a look at the live streams. You say they're really interesting. It's really interesting hearing some of the interviews and such beforehand, and then watching it as well and having that knowledge. But thanks to everyone involved. Another thing we had going on throughout the weekend, of course, was the competition that we had going. And what another thing that a lot of people tuning into this are probably looking for us to get on with and announce some winners. Of course, our competition question was, which army was placed at the top of the latest tier list released in December 2021, and that answer was at Mr. Edward Murdoch.
It was demons. That's before the patch, though.
That's true.
Caveat, throw that disclaimer in. They were made a lot weaker by the patch, clearly, obviously. Yeah.
So nothing to, absolutely. But for the record, that I'm pretty sure that's how you spell it. If you wanted to take it, that's fine.
Write it down quick.
In terms of prizes, we had a few. Obviously, talked to you about a few of them. We had a few more added throughout the weekend and the build-up and everything. So we've got a commission from the Gobbo, Veil of the Ages, the Breach game, Laser Pen. That was on display at the weekend, actually, some dice trays from I can't remember the place. That's annoying. We've got Warhol, which obviously you saw some of the graphics from on our lineups as well. We've got a few 3-month passes to give out. Some vouchers from Chaos Cards as well, which were our sponsor for the weekend, and Infinite Dimensions Games, who are giving us some £20 off cards. So loads of prizes to give. With regards to that, we will probably do it in reverse order. So we will go third, second, first, because there'll be 3 main winners. We also have 2 more prizes that are just going to get a Warhol thing. We are going to do this I don't know how this is going to work. That's the entrance list, 20 people. Thank you very much for doing. And we have random.org giving us their finest. So any disclaimer now, nothing to do with us. We're not the ones. But obviously the numbers there correlate directly to the numbers that are going to come up. So we'll do that. So first off,
great prizes on offer as well, accumulated by numerous people and numerous people contributing towards those. So I'm a little bit surprised we only had the 20 entrants. I think a lot of you are missing a trick by not entering, but nonetheless, more for the people who did. So good luck to those 20 people.
Absolutely.
Let's see.
And going on to it, we decided to have right from the start. We decided to clump the prizes rather than give them out separately. So third prize is going to get £10 voucher from Chaos Games. That's like a store credit. £20 off your cart from Infinite Dimensions. The Warhol 3-month free pass, the laser pen, and the dice tray. So that's a good prize for third, right? Off the bat. So drum roll, please. Very good. Oh, unfortunately, your mic is really well tuned to not pick up a background sound.
No, that's not my fault. Purely by chance.
Absolutely. But
press the button.
Number 12.
Oh, it's Leo Brown.
Thank goodness. Right, so that's the first one. Fairly easy to pronounce. I will do
well
a disclaimer.
Done,
I'm going to get everybody's name wrong. But Leo Brown, congratulations. So on to second prize, which is a £20 off voucher from Chaos Cards, £20 off Infinite Dimensions, the Warhol free pass, the dice tray, and the Veil of the Ages have supplied us with a game box actually that comes with 2 models, dice, post, mainly directed at getting people into the hobby as well. So if you get it, then go and show people, get them into 9th Age, start beating them 20. Some easy wins, right? But it's a really good game actually that focuses on all the different phases of the game to introduce people quite slowly. Then go on to the essence and such. But so
we played it, didn't we, on the channel with the Breach? It's a lot of fun. It doesn't matter if you've played 9th Age before or not. You can have a lot of fun playing the Breach.
Yeah, absolutely. Winner of the second prize will be drum roll, please, Matty. 19 is Sean Hughes. Well done, Sean Hughes. 10 points if you guess where that tune's from as well.
That's great. I can just take that stuff around next time.
Right.
I'm up north. So
saves us on postage. It's fantastic. Right. However, number one, first prize. That's something I didn't think of actually. First prize, however, is £30 voucher. 20 from Chaos Cards, £20 from Infinite Dimensions, Warhol 3-month free pass, the dice tray, and a standard size infantry. He's told me to say free commission from the Gobbo himself. So good luck to everybody. Drum roll, please. Ed, it's your turn. Oh, that was good. That's probably our best one. He is the master.
Hey, yes, true. Can't argue with that.
20, Robert Hunter. Well done, Rob Hunter. Thank you very much for everyone that got involved. We do have two, I guess, extra prizes, we'll say, which is 2 more people to give out 3-month. This is a tongue twister. 3-month free pass for Warhol, which is obviously similar to UB but in 3D. You saw the graphics earlier in this. We've done plenty of things on our channel if you wanted to give it a go beforehand. Those 2 are going to be... we'll go back to Hyper G for the drum roll because he needs to improve.
I'm going to slam the table, right? Okay, if I break my table...
Number 1, Adam Formento. And we'll do the second one as well. Go on and Matty. I think Hyper G's done that pretty well. Number 11, Gareth Willis. We're going to Bristol.
5 different people on the random number. That was pretty good.
Yeah, we haven't done it twice. So well done, Gareth and Adam. I feel like jazz hands are the way for. But yes, well done, everybody.
I've just had to explain to my missus what that awful noise was. So she thought the house was breaking.
Well, I mean, we were thinking the same. But no.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you, everybody, for getting involved. I say, even if you didn't get involved in the competition direct, if you got involved in our commentary at any point, it was awesome. We had at one point we did a shout out of everybody around. Where are you from? And we had Holland, USA, Spain, Mexico, Australia, loads of places. So that was awesome in itself. I think we had about 40 people throughout day 2, which is incredible considering 60 of them were at the event. So thanks very much for doing that. We should say a big thank you to our sponsors as well. Sponsors being these people, wonderful people. Obviously all the podcasters, all the YouTubers that got involved in the content. That was awesome. Paired Weapon Podcast, yourself, Matty, was a leading force on it as well. Vale of the Ages, Goblin's Grotto, Deep Cut Studio was the dice tray place. Board in Brum, of course, and Jordan for hosting the event. Board in Brum especially were really, really helpful.
Really helpful.
Beforehand, really good, really chatty, and at one point I kept asking them things and they kept saying no, but really sad about it. So they were really good, really helpful, and everything. We should say as well, special thank you to these sponsors. Chaos Cards, obviously, for giving us a sponsor for the live stream. They're still doing it now. You've got, I think this goes out on Friday, so 3 days ish to still.
No, I think it's end of January it lasts until 31st. So
I think this goes out on the Friday.
Oh yes, no, you're right. Yeah.
So
That's right.
By the time people see this, go check Chaos Cards. I'll put the link in the description, so you can just click on it and get to their website. I think you get £5 off for any £40 or more
Purchase
of miniature games or accessories and things. So that's awesome. Warhol, obviously, for doing the 5 free passes, which is
thanks, Hugo.
Great. Hit us up if you're on the Warhol thing as well, because we always want a game. And I know
I'm well up for a game on Warhol anytime.
Absolutely. So thank you to all of those. I'm just checking my thing. A final thanks, I guess, to, and we'll briefly go over this, but our thousandth subscriber. We had obviously over the weekend itself a plethora of subscribers that did it. We definitely had a bit of a boost, and it was awesome to get over 1,000
during the event,
which was wicked.
Amazing.
Go subscribe to all the other YouTube and go follow all the people, all the podcast people. I've definitely done all my talking in the weekend, haven't I?
Whilst you're thanking everyone, then Lucky Sixes and HyperG, I think on behalf of the community, we have got to say a massive thank you to you guys. You know, I mean, the amount of work that's gone into this is absolutely epic. I mean, literally all I've done is just turn up, right, and add, a certain class to what would otherwise be a vulgar brawl.
Yeah.
But without this, it has been, it's the highlight of the year, isn't it? And
that's what we pay you for, anyway, Matty.
Phenomenal, lads. So, yeah, well done.
No, thank you very much. And I say it's a pleasure to be. We've already had some awesome feedback as well on live streams, on our shows and stuff like that. But as long as you're not calling us names, we're happy to take any feedback on board. And we are looking to improve for next year as well. So anything you would like us to do or trying to get involved in, then we will try and incorporate that and see what we can do throughout the next year in preparation. I think other than thanking literally everyone under the sun, I think that takes us to the end of the show and the end of the Masters coverage. Thank you, of course, our guest. This is weird. Our guest HyperG, and of course, the master of the UK scene. The number one player, numero uno. We bow down. We are not worthy. Ed Murdoch.
Bravo.
Thanks very much.
Well done, Ed.
Get used to it, my friend. Get used to it. That's how. I'm pretty sure that you'll have to be accepting that of most people as a high. Normally people maybe might wave at you. Now people are going to be bowing, my friend. But
it won't last.
we really appreciate your time, and like I said, enjoy being the master, and we look forward to having you on next year to defend your crown.
Awesome, looking forward to it.
But Matty, we are at the end of our tether. We've got some beers to get through, and some beds to actually finally go to. As well. Thank you very much for accompanying me on this journey. And
it's been my pleasure, Lucky Sixes. Absolutely my pleasure. And I remember what I said earlier. What you've done here is really phenomenal. It's been an absolute pleasure to work alongside you again. Hopefully, next year I'll be back there. You never know. It could happen.
Yeah, absolutely. And I say you're in Bristol as well, so we will certainly have a beer and a catch up.
We will.
And as I said to some of the people coming up to us on the day, this is only our edition for Match of the Day, so we won't be here long. I think we're getting tapped up very, very soon. But we'll enjoy it while it lasts.
For sure.
No, once again, viewers, thank you very much for joining us. Do like, share, subscribe, because as we said, it really helps us. But do like, share, subscribe, comment on all the other people involved as well. It's been an absolute team effort, and an honour and a privilege to work with everyone that has, and everyone's been so accompanying and so polite and getting involved as well. So it's been easy. Kind of, but it certainly has been a pleasure, And until next year, see you later.
See you next year, guys.